Military buildup and US military buildup on the Caribbean and all of the assets position close to Venezuela. Well, today we are going to discuss.
Welcome to Venezuela Insider, the only place in Venezuela for expats, digital nomads, entrepreneurs, investors, travelers, and related internationals. For more information, venezuelainsider.com.
Welcome again to Venezuela Insider. Happy to be back. We are going to do an analyze, a technical analyze on the military assets put by the United States close to Venezuela and if that what can do those particular assets and if they are going to be used for a quote-unquote regime change in Venezuela. Before I start, I have to give the disclaimer. I'm not a military expert. I'm a civilian. My area of expertise is economics, finance, real estate, the oil industry, things like that. But, due to the events, we have to learn on the go a lot of military stuff. And of course, and this is very important. And remember, for instance, when we had COVID, that we have to learn how, about coronaviruses and vaccines and things like that, and, flattening the curve and social distancing and, all of those terms that we learned during COVID. But now we have to learn, at least on my side, on my end, we have to learn about how military stuff works. So let's start. Okay, we know that this particular military buildup started on early August, over 2 months ago, and the first pieces to be moved are three Arleigh class destroyers. The ships have Aegis missile systems. They are stocked with different cruise missiles. And the most famous one is, of course, the Tomahawk cruise missile that has a range of around 1,500 kilometers, or like 1,200 miles. Depends how you want to put it. Well, anyway, those three destroyers, Arleigh are parked within the Caribbean right now. And the names, they are the USS Gravely, the USS Jason Dunham, and I forgot the third one. I'm sorry, I'm gonna put it here on the picture. That's the first one. Then, of course, the main package came from the amphibious ready group Iwo Jima. That includes two destroyers that, of course, escort the big ship. That is of course, the USS Iwo Jima. That is a WASP class vessel that is, and in English, is just a small aircraft carrier, mostly for helicopters and things like that. And overall, with this particular amphibious group, you have around 4,500 military personnel, including 2,200 Marines. And of course, on these particular packages, you have different helicopters, like the Seahawk helicopter is like the U.S. Navy version of the Black Hawk. You have Ospreys, you have attack helicopters like the Vipers, and I forgot the other one. Remember, I'm not an expert, but the piece of resistance is aircrafts, fighter planes that are VTOL class, so vertical takeoff landing class, known as the Harriers. That basically they can just fly, vertically, not like the typical airplanes. Yeah, yeah. I'm learning this on the go, by the way. Okay, so over there you have already a party, a military party, but that wasn't all. Afterwards, little by little, other pieces have been adding up, like the Los Angeles class submarine, known as the USS, I forgot the name, USS Newport News. That is a submarine with nuclear propulsion and also is packed with Tomahawk missiles. Then you had another destroyer that the name is the USS Lake Erie. This one is a Ticonderoga class destroyer. I don't know what that means. Actually, I have been reading and researching. I still don't understand it. If someone is a military expert, a military geek, please put it on the comment. I would like to know. But apparently, it's something about detection, early detection, and surface to air defenses on the water, something like that. I'm not an expert, just giving you the news right here. Afterwards, you have the Ocean Trader, another vessel, but this particular vessel looks like a civilian cargo vessel, but apparently is used as a base for special operations. People like the Navy SEALs or the Green Berets and, these special forces. Allegedly, that's the case. Also, another ship that is used for transportation, cargo replenishment and things like that, but also has been used in the past as a prison. I don't remember the name right now, but I'm gonna put here a picture. And afterwards, we had also a lot of movement in Puerto Rico. Remember, Puerto Rico is very close to Venezuela, relatively, around 600 miles. So, from what I can understand, also, being learning this on the go, they want to use it as the new Diego Garcia base. Diego Garcia is a remote island on the Indian Ocean that is used as a military base for the US purposes, in order to do logistics and military equipment to the operation theaters in the Indo-Pacific and the Middle East and things like that. Okay, this is as far as I know. Okay, but apparently Puerto Rico, for US purposes, has become the new Diego Garcia. So basically, they are parking military assets, military personnel, logistics, supplies, cargo, things like that. They reopen the military base, the air base in Puerto Rico, known as Roosevelt Roads, and also they are using the ports in Ponce, Puerto Rico, in order to put, replenishment operations for the destroyers, the vessels that I just mentioned recently, and several others. Afterwards, that we know this particular amphibious package and the destroyers and the submarine, we learned that the US on early September they sent a fleet of 10 F-35 B-2 Lightning II fighter jets. Apparently, those are the most advanced fighter jets that you have right now in existence in the world, and they are special. Apparently, they have stealth. They have stealth capabilities. Those were the ones used to Israel used in for bombing Iran just a few months ago, and several other big operations, airstrike operations. Now they are in Puerto Rico, and actually they have been doing reconnaissance within the Caribbean theater and very close to Venezuela. And according to the defense minister of Venezuela, Padrino, they were very this tiny close. Were on the what is known as the FIR airspace of Venezuela, but without entering on the mainland Venezuela. That already happened. And also you have these replenishing vehicles, airplanes, in order to replenish I forgot, this oil, fuel cargo replenishment planes that you have, the big ones with the tube. Yeah, I'm not an expert on that regard, but you have several of those working on the Caribbean theater as well. Also, you have the P-8 Poseidon. This is a reconnaissance plane used by the US Navy in order to get real data, real information of any particular potential theater of operations, mostly used yet again by the US Navy in order to detect submarines and things like that. Okay. Also, you have been seeing an increase of the military personnel that you have in the whole theater. Also in Puerto Rico, you have the unit of air hoppers. I believe that's the name, air hoppers. Apparently, they are elite on what they do. On parachutes and amphibious operation. They have been a lot of drills, a lot of operations in Puerto Rico and surrounding islands like the U.S. British Island, the U.S. Virgin Islands, I'm sorry, and places like that in order to like rehearse what might happen in Venezuela, allegedly. Also, this is by Trump himself. He mentioned that the CIA, the Central Intelligence Agency, has been doing. They have been fully authorized to make operations in Venezuela. That's more of a recent thing. And also, you have seen flyovers very close to Venezuelan soil of different aircrafts from the US. First, you saw the B-2 bombers that also they did like a strange air pattern looking like, a small, a big, uh, male member, to put it like this. Now, let's put here the picture of the radar. And just recently, another more advanced bombers. This one is the B-1B bomber Lancer, I believe is the Lancer. The name, it was very close, basically surrounded all of the Venezuelan mainland and was very close to entering into the mainland Venezuela, but that did not happen. Now, more recently, and apparently on a few days, will arrive to the theater of operation the USS Gerald Ford. And I made a mistake when I said it on Twitter on X. And apparently, this is, the full party by itself. This is the biggest air carrier and most advanced air carrier not only the US has, but basically in existence in the world. By far, apparently it has a capacity of 80, 80 fighter planes. They have a population, the military a military number, troops of around 5,000 people, military personnel on board, and also there is a package surrounding this particular aircraft carrier with several destroyers. I'm going to put here the aircraft carrier and also the complete package. By the way, I want to give a shout out to Ian Ellis. He's a content creator on Twitter, on X. He's doing very, illustrative information about the complete build-up on the Caribbean. So shout out to Ian. Please follow him on X. He has been a valuable resource, especially for me that, I'm not an expert on this military equipment. And right now, that's what we have right now. Probably I forgot just a couple of military pieces, but yet again. Now, the main question is on Trump, if Trump is going to use it within Venezuela and how it's going to be used, and if the main purpose is to be used for a regime change in Venezuela, and that if that is even possible. The first thing is that every information is pointing out that Trump indeed is going to use it inside Venezuela. First question. Number two, how it's going to be used? Well, apparently you have a bunch of Tomahawk missiles that right now, where they are positioned, they can strike any part of Venezuelan soil. And also you have the military, the fighter planes, the F-35s and things like that, and the bombers. Those can reach Venezuela as well from, several miles. They have cruise missiles and things like that. Remember, I'm not an expert. And also, by the way, I also forgot to mention the Reaper drones that have been used, the MQ-9 Reaper. That's actually the weapon of choice in order to bomb these alleged drug vessels strike on the Caribbean, and they use Hellfire missiles, I believe. That's, remember, I'm not a military expert. Okay, so how they're going to be used? Mostly, apparently, I'm trying to piece every information, every trustworthy information, because there's a lot of crap. But the most important media has come from the Wall Street Journal. The journal is doing an excellent job on this regard. Afterwards, I will say the New York Times, this is controversial because I know they don't like Trump that much. They are 50-50. They give you or even a great intel on what's going on with the sources in Washington and things like that, or they give you a complete horrific analysis about Venezuela. So it's a toss-up every time that the Times speaks. Also, the Financial Times has done pretty much a decent job. And afterwards, you have a bunch of crap. CNN, a crapshoot. Sometimes they get it right, sometimes they get it wrong. And Fox News has been mostly basically being the narrator, the play-by-play narrator of this thing. The opposition leader, Maria Corina Machado, has been appearing a lot on Fox News, mostly, basically weekly. On the channel, they have both a Spanish, a Latin American feed, and the US feed, and she has been appearing on both channels. Okay, about that. Well, anyways, everything points out that it will be some sort of kinetic operation within Venezuela, according to the reports, in Washington and military experts. Yet again, I'm not a military expert. I'm just trying to know. Remember, this channel is not about what we want, it's about what it is, regardless if that's what we want or not. Very cool. So it's gonna be this military buildup, the military assets can strike in Venezuela. That's a definitely yes. Number two, Trump is willing to strike within Venezuela. Another yes. Apparently, according to the open source information, OSINT, also thing that I have to be learning recently. Well, my own channel is OSINT, but not for military stuff, of course. Yet again. Number three, is Trump going for a regime change in Venezuela? Well, everything points out that it is. Now, depends on what you call a regime change. Because what the opposition is alleging, the Venezuelan opposition, is that they won the election and they show the proof that they won the election. So, de facto, it wouldn't be really a regime change. That's what they allege. And the United States, both the Biden administration and now the Trump administration, has recognized Edmundo González, the opposition candidate, as the legitimate president of Venezuela, and Maria Corina Machado, of course. So on that regard, is semantics, is philosophy, as you wanna interpret it. But yeah, they want to get rid of Maduro. That's basically what they want, and they're using the counter narcotics operation as an excuse. I cannot tell, I don't have the evidence on that, but it's kind of like a rumor, an open secret that indeed that's what's going on. That's number three. But most likely the reason is geopolitical, the ties with Maduro, with Russia and China, and things like that. Basically, the enemies of the United States, very close to the US soil, so they are taking care of their backyard. Apparently, that's what's going on. Anyway, now Trump can actually, with that particular equipment, military, military capacity, can do it? And the answer is yes, definitely. Now, how easy is going to be, that will be more of the debate. A lot of people that doesn't know anything about Venezuela basically just take as at face value what they can research on Wikipedia or something like that, and as a Venezuelan expert, that's not the case. Well, the reality is that yes, Venezuela has some decent equipment, especially the surface to air defense systems like the Russian S-300, the Buk MK, the manpads, the Igla manpad, so they can do some damage with that. So it's not going to be as easy as some people think, but it's not going to be a Vietnam like many people. By the way, yet again, I'm going to mention this. Every time that someone mentions Venezuela on the same sentence that Vietnam, Libya, Syria, Iraq, something like that, please disregard that analysis. Is completely false, completely mistaken, is either wrong or just trying to lie in order to fulfill a particular political bias. So that's what we don't do here. Remember, this is not about what we want, it's about what it is. And we have a very long list. We're gonna start doing, kind of like an analysis on each of these people. There are so many people that, I don't know where to start. But I see completely horrible analysis. I'm gonna mention just the biggest names. Nick Fuentes, the controversial Nick Fuentes, completely wrong. Like 80% wrong. Like 20% is actually good analysis, but the other 80 is crap. You have Peter Sahan, friend of the channel. Uh, as usual, he starts with good information and the conclusions are terrible. It's like that meme of the drawing of a horse that the back of the horse is very beautiful and then it's like a doodle. Well, that's Peter Sahan doing analysis about Venezuela. Then you have Jeffrey Sachs, 100% wrong. Doesn't have one thing that he said that is right. So completely disregard Jeffrey Sachs. And by the way, if Jeffrey, I don't know how much he's charging, but I'm gonna charge. I'm gonna raise my prices to match him because my analysis is way better than him. Anyways, no hate to Mr. Sachs. Colonel McGregor, he's been very active regarding the analysis of Venezuela. This is embarrassing because he's a colonel. He should know way better, have a better intel about military affairs regarding Venezuela. He doesn't. He's completely mistaken. It's embarrassing being a military veteran, an expert, and a colonel, thing like that. Please disregard everything about the good colonel. I have nothing against him. I think he's a gentleman, just way flat out wrong about Venezuela. And I have a bunch of names. Also, the people from the Young Turks, please disregard it. I like the Young Turks, but they are completely mistaken about Venezuela yet again. And also, I'm seeing also these people are taking, some people are taking the opportunity in order to do some crazy economic analysis that is horrible. Please don't trust that particular analysis because it's horrible and you're gonna get wrong information. So, proceed with care. Anyways, now, how it's gonna unravel? We don't know. It's gonna be most likely it's gonna be quick, and I have to say it regardless if you like it or don't. The operation is gonna be a special military operation. If you catch my drift, a real special military operation, not the one in Ukraine. Yeah, that's another thing. Also, Russia is somehow involved, but it's not very involved. Same thing with China. Russia and China are not gonna do that much if the US is gonna actually use the full might. Now, the biggest question here that you have to ask is if Trump is going to do it, and everything points out that he's going to do it. It's like the Schrodinger's cat. It may be the cat might be alive or the cat might be dead inside the box. Well, this is the Trump's cat or the Schrodinger's Trump's box, so you want to call it. Trump is going to do it. Well, right now there are two scenarios, and one is this is just smoke and mirrors in order to scare Maduro and his people. And the second is, yeah, he's gonna go for it. And the answer is that if it's just smoke and mirrors, nothing is gonna happen, Maduro is gonna stay, and his people, yada yada yada. Yet again, I'm not saying that's what we want, I'm saying that's what it is. So depending on your particular political bias, that's what I see. So if there is not a kinetic action, nothing will happen. Just with scare tactics, that's not gonna cut it. These people have been 26 years in charge, and that's one of the reasons. It's one of the reasons why. Okay, now if Trump goes full kinetic and uses everything on his disposition, the aircraft carrier, the fighter jets, the Tomahawk missiles, yada yada yada, the Marines. If he goes all in, yeah, it's gonna make it, and it's gonna make it quick. Yeah, with some, when you do military stuff. I'm not an expert in military, but I know my country. It's gonna be, some messy stuff, but it's gonna be quick, actually. And then you're gonna have like an aftershock, but on surrounding areas, but nothing important, just like some guerrilla stuff that will have no meaning, actually, because allegedly this is about counter narcotics. And yes, you have presence of, drug drug dealers in the country, usually on remote places, mostly come from Colombia. And these people, the drug business, which I'm not an expert, and these people are, let's say, business people. I'm a businessman doing business thing. So if they see a turmoil in Venezuela, they will just go and do business elsewhere, like in Mexico, in Colombia, Ecuador, places like that are more famous for, drug operations that compared to Venezuela. So they are not jihadis. They are not going to die for Allah, Al Burq Al Ba, or forget that. They are not going to die for the Venezuelan nation because most of them are not even Venezuelan. And the Venezuelan people, a minority that are not going to be, pleased that a military operation is taking place in Venezuela. They most likely are not, suicidal, so they're going to be upset, but that's it. A minority, and the sentiment that I'm picking up is either they won the operation, because remember there is an overwhelming, negative opinion, and I mean lightly, against Maduro and Chavismo and the government, and they want Maduro out one way or another. And if it's military, it is what it is, according to the sentiment of a significant portion of the Venezuela. And there is another big significant proportion of Venezuelan people regarding the sentiment on the situation is that they are very, cynic, nihilistic, that this is Trump just for show. Trump is not going to do it. The taco, Trump always chickens out. This is not going to happen, because they have like a Stockholm syndrome regarding Maduro. They don't like Maduro, but they cannot believe after all of these years nothing ever happens. So, and that's the sentiment. By the way, and now a next Vietnam or something like that is not going to happen. What happens is going to be quick, and then some skimmerish every now and then. And that's what I see. And my analysis is way superior that 90% of the analysis. I will say 99%. I'm going to say, I don't want to toot my own horn, but, I have to do it because it's terrible. I mean, it's terrible, and I'm, the best game in town because the rest of the game is awful. So that's I have to come up yet again. So thank you again. Please, if you are a military expert, not like me, please leave it on the comments. Something that I missed, I said wrong. I'm learning on the go. This is a moving target, and I'll see you on the next video.
Thank you for watching Venezuela Insider. Please like, share, and subscribe. Follow us on social media. If you want to work with us, venezuelainsider.com. Thanks again, and have a nice day.